Hi, everybody. I'm Lisa Ascolese, the inventress. Welcome to my podcast. Hi, everybody. I'm Lisa Ascolese, the inventress. I'm here with my beautiful daughter, Brittany Ascolese.
Hey, everyone.
Welcome back to our podcast. So excited to bring on a guest today. I'm really literally jumping out of my skin, Brittany. This woman, young lady, fabulous chef, artist, actress, you name it, is gracing us with her presence tonight. It's the incomparable Carla Hall. Many of you may know her from the show The Chew on ABC television, and she's currently on GMA, Cooking with Michael Strahan. So without further ado, I am jumping again out of my skin to introduce you, Carla Hall. So Carla, super excited to have you on our show today, and we're just going to be talking about everything. Want to hear about you. I loved how you opened up. I said, Brittany, you really missed that book signing. Your speaking was incredible. I loved how, what was that guy's name? Sean? Brought people on.
Yes, it was Sean. S-H-O-N.
Sean,
Mm-hmm.
Yep, S-H-O-N. He brought everybody on video, and they were asking you questions, which I loved. And you were like right on point with all of them. And you were such an inspiration. You inspired everybody in the room.
Well, it was an honor to do it. It really was, because so often people think about me with just food. Mm-hmm. And I think that food has become my story, of what I do, but it's not who I am. And I think people forget that their jobs are not who they are. That's
right. It definitely doesn't define you. So we're going to jump right into it, Carla. I want to ask you about this magnificent cookbook of yours. I have been thumbing through it and just so excited. In fact, I made a couple of dishes. I made the hummus.
Yes, which is such an easy, fast thing to make.
It is. The
black-eyed pea hummus.
The black-eyed pea hummus. It was absolutely magnificent. And I just took everything that you had on your crudité, everything. You had the zucchini and all of those things. I just copied it. I made my tray try to look like yours. So all right, we're talking about Carla Hall Soul Food, every day in celebration. Carla, please tell us a little bit about this, a lot about this book, why you decided to do this cookbook.
I think people already know me as cooking comfort food, but I have not come out and said specifically, I really want to carve out a lane for soul food. And the more work that I did with the African American Museum, I'm the culinary ambassador for Sweden, more knowledge that I had about my ancestors by getting my DNA done with African ancestry and finding out my ancestors were Yoruba from Nigeria and the Bubi people from Bioko Island, which is off the coast of Cameroon. And then there was Spanish and Portuguese, but 58% African. And I started to imagine what would our food look like if it came over today. If my ancestors came over today, what would that food be? Because I felt like soul food, when I heard people talking about it, it was like, oh, it's unhealthy, or, it's just fattening and it's heavy. And I just kept saying, but that's not how it always was. And I think that those celebration dishes that I love, and when I go to a meat and three or a soul food restaurant, those are the dishes that I want, but I don't eat like that every day. So I wanted to also explore the other side of the coin. What were the everyday dishes? Because people weren't killing their chickens because they needed them for eggs. And also chickens were actually raised, or they became birds for eating, but they weren't always that way. So again, using my imagination to sort of open up this dialogue and to show soul food as a cuisine, the formative cuisine of American food, just like there's Italian food and Indian food and Chinese food. They're soul food.
Now, what is the real root of soul food? We talked about that a little bit. What is soul food?
Well, for me, soul food is the food that comes out of the Black experience, the African American diaspora, the African diaspora. And the name soul food came from people wanting to name it in the late 60s, 1968, sort of like in that the Bible Belt, that Delta region, Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, that food. But that food started way before that. And when people ask me what's the difference between Southern food and soul food, being that I'm from Nashville, so, I've seen both and I've had both, and it's simply Black cooks. And I make the analogy between a hymn and a Negro spiritual. Yes.
I like what you said about having the food have that spirit between the Caribbean and the African American feel, that influence that makes you want to get up and dance.
Yes.
I so agree with that. And I love it because when you have something that has that, I say has your foot in it, or has that soul food flavor, it is just, it just moves you. It really does.
Yes.
And I mean, I know we all like to eat in my family, and we're eating something good. We start dancing. It feels so good. It like
you get the tap. You get the foot tap.
It is. We're starting to move around. We're chewing and we're moving, and it's the truth. It's a very spiritual thing. Like food for us and our family is such a blessing. Like I know it is to you too. It's such a blessing. Number one, that we have food. God has blessed us with the food that we can eat, and that when we get together and eat it as a family, and we're celebrating the meals, we do want to dance and we do want to celebrate it. So this is why I love the title of your book also. I love it because it is a celebration when you're eating, especially great, healthy foods and delicious foods. And these foods that are in your book they're very, you have lots of vegetables here.
Yes, I don't think people think about soul food as being an agrarian cuisine. When you think about the Cotton Belt and you think about warm weather and how you can grow, you have a much longer growing season. And so people had gardens, and so they lived off of the land and the waterways. So there were lots of vegetables. Yes. And there are people who don't have means who talk about having a garden. I mean, it's much cheaper to buy seeds than it is to go to the store and buy everything that has been grown for you and picked and washed and all of that, because there are the costs that are associated. So you have to grow your own food.
That's right. And, I so agree with this. My father always said, my parents are from the West Indies, as you probably know. And my dad said, our grocery store was in our backyard. Well, when they grew up, that was the grocery store. They went in the backyard and picked their groceries.
Yeah. So when people are talking about, farm to table, that's how people ate. And I think that when we have these buzzwords and we talk about what is trending and, eating seasonally, I wish that people would say, this is how we used to eat and let's go back to that, versus trying to make it sound like it's new.
Yes.
Or when you have a culture, and let's say they will say, oh, kimchi is in now. Well, the Koreans have been eating this for 1,000 years.
That's right.
So for you to say that it's in, what are you saying about these people when this goes out and something else comes in? So, just out of respect, I just think it's to honor where the dishes came from. And then you wouldn't have the conversations about appropriations, because it's honoring them. And I'm not saying that people can't cook food outside of their culture. I love making Indian food. I love Italian food. I love making dumplings and noodles, but that you have to give some depth to those cultures, that it's not yours.
That's right. I think the younger generation coming up is adapting to this, or actually putting this in their diets. My daughters, they both shop at Whole Foods, Trader Joe's. They're growing up with a healthier lifestyle, and this cookbook is really resonating with everybody. But I see the younger generation also holding on to this. I went through this with both my daughters and my son, and they're like going crazy for it. So this is going in everybody's stocking.
I love it. I actually I love it so much. And Carla, I don't cook at all.
Yes.
Which I'm trying to. It's not that I don't like it. I just rather scrub the pot than clean, than cook in the pot.
Right.
And
that's okay.
Yeah. And my sister is an amazing cook. Like, she is so, so good. But, I live with my boyfriend and he does most of the cooking. But, if he comes home late, I do want to cook. And, I always go to my mom for recipes because she's a really good cook as well. And
I know.
She's very, very good. And, she's like, okay, make the meatballs like this. I'm like, all right, well, I can't do that. So if I felt looks like, the hummus looks really good, I can't take too many steps. It's just my own thing. But I know this will be in my stocking in the next month or so.
I was telling Brittany, you explained things so easily. We had a couple of college kids come on, to your book signing. And they were asking about quick meals because they're in college dorms. And you explained one of the things that you said. Oh, it was eggs and broccoli. I think you were.
Yes.
Tell Brittany about that. I mean, that was the most incredible. I think I made that the next day, actually, or the day after. Tell Brittany about that recipe.
Well, I mean, I think that people don't think about the easy things that they can do and to shop from the salad bar, because you don't need to buy a whole head of broccoli when you're just cooking for one. So it may be a little more expensive, but you're also going to waste less. Mm-hmm. So if you look at the salad bar, you're going to get a little broccoli. Maybe they have some cheese on there that's already shredded. Mm-hmm. That you're going to get 2 ounces of cheese versus 8 ounces of cheese that you have to grate yourself. And so there are things that you can do. Get those packages of ramen noodles and throw away that seasoning packet. Mm-hmm. And then, use those noodles and then put things in the microwave, make a quick peanut sauce with peanut butter, because of course you have that because you're going to do a peanut butter and jelly. Who wouldn't? Mm-hmm. And then you put a little sriracha in there and some lime juice, a little bit of water, and you have a sauce that you're going to put on those noodles.
That sounded so easy, but when I'm about to do it, I'm like, where's the peanut butter? Like, I really have to just get my act together.
You mean like what aisle is the peanut butter in?
Yeah, like
it's in the jam aisle.
Where's the jam aisle? Like,
okay, so that's the aisle with the honey, and that's also I know the grocery store like back. I mean, most grocery stores follow a system, mm-hmm. but you just look up there and you're like jams and jellies. It has a little sign.
I think Brittany just likes John.
You know what I do? No, you know what we do? We go in and out of each aisle. Like, okay, we need this. All right. So we're in there for like an hour or so just because we're going in and out of the aisles. But no, I really gotta, if I want a family, I really gotta step this up.
You gotta step it up, Brittany. And you gotta use Carla's book.
Yes,
okay,
so Brittany, do you know what my grocery list looks like? My grocery list looks like meat. It's by the aisles. Mm-hmm. Produce, everything in the produce. And then it's canned goods, but it would be so canned vegetables versus tomatoes, because where the tomatoes are is where the pasta is. Mm-hmm. And then you would have the condiments, and then you would have the spices, which is on the baking aisle. So once you start shopping, you get to know that. But the idea is to shop around the perimeter of the grocery store, because that's where all the fresh stuff is going to be.
Right.
That's smart. That's very smart. I love that. And, getting back to the cookbook, you have everything in here. You have desserts. You have full meals. You have appetizers. You've got drinks. Are these everyday drinks, Carla? I mean, and they look very, very simple.
A lot of those are everyday drinks. And the way, they can be everyday and celebration. I have a mango frappe in there. And mango is not in season, obviously. If you're not in California, it's not in season all year round. So get frozen mango. Brittany, you can do this. Mm-hmm. So you can be the drink lady. So you're going to get some frozen mango. Uh-huh. You're going to get a can of coconut milk, which is in the same aisle with, I think, the soups. And no, it's in the aisle with all of the international foods.
Oh,
so you're going to get a can of coconut milk. You're also going to get Coco Lopez, which you may be having if you do pina coladas. And then you're going to get lime, and then a little bit of honey, and you're going to throw all of this in the blender with ice. And you just blend it up. And if it's not sweet enough, you add more honey. If it's too sweet, you add, and flat, you add more lime juice. So I try to sort of give people very simple things to do, because sometimes it's that drink that makes the difference in an evening, and it feels special.
I am totally doing drinks.
Yes. And this habanero, yes, Brittany, I think you could do that. The habanero ginger simple syrup.
Yes.
Looks spectacular.
So I started doing, when I had my restaurant, Carla Hall Southern Kitchen, we used to do a sweet tea soda. And so I would do a simple syrup with tea, and I put the habanero in there. But with this is an actual sweetener. So if you have iced tea, straight up iced tea, especially chai would be delicious. And you add this, and that spicy habanero pairs so well with the spices and chai. And then you you drink this over ice, add some sparkling water if you want. Boom.
I'm doing this one. This looks delicious, refreshing, and easy to make. Now, everything in this cookbook looks very, very simple.
The only recipe that's probably more challenging, it's not that it's challenging, it does take technique and it's involved, and that is the banana pudding. Because this is the banana pudding that I had been making at the restaurant, and I just thought that it is worthy of a celebration. And so I have you making the shortbread, but if you don't want to make the shortbread, you can buy it. I have you making the custard, the vanilla custard, and if you don't want to make it, you can use a box of vanilla custard, and then for the milk, you can mash up your own banana. So there are shortcuts that you can take. The shortcut that you cannot take if you do want to go that extra mile is the meringue. And I show you how to make a meringue, and then you're going to finish the meringue with a little bit of vinegar and some lime. And the meringue should be delicious. I feel as though a meringue should not just be a fluffy white thing on top of a pie or something, right? It should just really be delicious. And what makes it delicious is some kind of acid or citrus.
Okay. No, I've never made meringue. I do my bread pudding.
Yes.
There's the two things I make, Carla. I do a tiramisu. I do the bread pudding, and every year I do the eggnog, which you had both, I think. You had the eggnog and the bread pudding.
I did, and they were delicious.
But there's going to be a twist, because I'm using this cookbook to cook this Thanksgiving. And I don't follow recipes, but your recipes are so easy to follow. This is going to be on the table. A lot of the stuff.
But you know what I think, because you do cook, and Brittany, you don't cook, so you'd want to follow the recipes. But I think that for somebody who cooks, I have a lot of cookbooks, but I use them as inspiration. And so it's just that one thing that you may see differently that you'll use on something that you already know how to make. So if you're doing your tiramisu and you're like, oh, I just want to do something different with this tiramisu, and you decide to do a meringue, and now what you're going to do is dissolve a little bit of espresso powder or have your liqueurs in that meringue. And then you put it on top of that meringue, and you fire it with a torch, and so you get some of that char. So that's also how you can use the book.
Nice. Is that like creme brulee? Is that how you make creme brulee?
Yes, with the torch and the sugar. Okay. But it's not a meringue, but it's the sugar that you put on top of a baked custard.
I see. Now, I want to get to a little bit of your journey. You've been on the True, incredible. How many seasons was that, Carla?
It was 7 seasons and about 1,500 shows.
1,500 shows.
Yes.
Amazing.
That's like a cup of coffee. 1,500, wow.
It's like a cup of coffee. But prior to that, we got to talk about how you got to the True, how you got on Top Chef. That's an amazing story. Would you mind sharing some of that?
No. So I was catering, and somebody had called me the production company called me, but they had a tip to call me from the woman who was the president at the time of the Dame d'Escoffier, which is an organization of women in the hospitality and food industry. And I was totally unaware that they were calling me, but that same day, my sous chef said, I had a dream you were on Top Chef. And so when I got the call, I thought they were punking me. So I'm like, I'm not going to call them back. You know, the last laugh is mine. So I eventually called them back, and I was like, what? And I had to fill out this crazy long application. And it was a couple of more interviews and all of that. And I had to come out to LA, and it was all cloak and daggerish. And then they called me and said, you know, you've been selected to be part of season 5. And I had just watched the 4th season. So I didn't really know the show. And I just went on as a personal challenge.
But how crazy was that you got the call?
It was crazy. I remember them calling and they said, are you somewhere you can talk where you're by yourself? And I just sort of turned and went to the corner of the room and I said, yes. Okay, go ahead. Yes, I'm somewhere I can talk. And they were like, you've been selected. And I wanted to scream, but it was such a secretive cloak and dagger operation that I didn't tell anybody.
Oh,
and as a matter of fact, the people that I worked with, I told them that I was going to the Bahamas to work because I had clients in the Bahamas. So, and I had gone away before. So that they're like, okay, you're going away. I said, yeah, I'm going away. You won't be able to reach me. But,
and for how long?
I went away for 6 weeks. It was 6 weeks, and I only got to call my husband twice. There are no books allowed. They go through your luggage. They make sure that you don't have cell phones. There are no newspapers. There are no books. You can take a Bible. I had Awakened to a New Earth by Eckhart Tolle, so that was my spiritual
good for
piece of literature. And then everything is off the top of your head. There's nothing. And I got crazy. So you're sequestered and you're living with the other contestants. And I got to talk to Matthew twice.
Oh my gosh. So you could not speak to the outside world because the show was going to be launching in how many weeks? Within the 6-week period?
No. It wasn't launched because after that, it's a few months before they launch it, because then they take all of that footage and then they edit it down, best, with some foreshadowing, because that's what they do. And yeah.
So that's amazing to me. That's getting crazy, jump out of your skin moment that you can't share with anybody else. That must have made you nuts. So then leaving the show, you went back home and you were still not able to disclose anything. I'm sure you were under a non-disclosure.
I was under a non-disclosure, and there was a $1 million clause in this non-disclosure. And all I knew was I didn't have $1 million. So, you want to keep a secret. You tell somebody, you have them sign something where they can come and ask you for some money afterwards. So I didn't even tell my husband. As a matter of fact, we would have these watch parties. And I remember when I had won tickets to the Super Bowl. And so we were there watching, and I had a little fake ticket to the Super Bowl. And he was watching. He was like, what? And I just, in that moment, handed him those fake tickets. And he and my stepson Noah went to see the Super Bowl.
Wow.
He was like, you didn't tell me. I'm like, I didn't have $1 million.
Gosh, Carla, that's incredible. That is incredible. Now, so from there, other things transpired.
Yeah, so from there, the first Top Chef, I went on to cater. And then it was incredibly hard. I think people think, oh, you're on this amazing show, and now your life is going to change. But I call it the Oprah Winfrey effect, because fast, rapid change is not always good or sustainable.
Yes.
I mean, and you talk to people who've won the lottery. Well, I don't know anybody personally who's won, but you hear about them going into bankruptcy. So what happened after that? All of a sudden, I'm a caterer, and it's my own business. So I am thrust into this crazy...
But that was your choice, right? I mean, you decided to go into this.
Yeah, but I was already a caterer. So now I didn't really have the infrastructure or just the foundation to take on all of this business. It was just me and a couple of people working for me. So I didn't really have the office foundation, the back office. And so I ended up bringing people on to partner with me, and they were partnerships that were made, pretty off just quickly without really thinking about it, just because I needed help.
Yes.
And eventually I just said, I don't want to do this. I don't want to cater. And because it was just so hard. And I was struggling financially. I was struggling. And then they came back to ask me to do Top Chef All-Stars, which was 3 seasons later. And I said, absolutely not. I'm not doing it. I just can't. I feel like that experience, is as awesome as it was, sort of killed my niche business, because it didn't really kill it, but it let me know how unprepared I was. So it was challenging.
What an experience, though. Learning.
Yeah.
Learning wise.
Exactly. So then I did All Stars just to tell people. They said, make it part of your business, but they called me several times. The executives, and finally they talked me into it. I said the only way I'll do it is say I'm not catering. And so that's when I decided to change my business from catering to the cookie business. And so I sort of flipped, and I just did a bad job in calling it a different name, because people didn't realize it was a cookie company.
Right.
But that's when I started doing the petite cookies.
Now, did you package those and sell those?
I did.
We
We packaged them in-house, and we did, we drop shipped ourselves. We were in several Whole Foods. We were in Italy, and we were in several small gourmet shops. They were sweet and savory petite cookies, about the size of sugar cubes.
So now, how did you go from that? The big question is, how did you get from that to the Chew? How did that come along?
I had auditioned right after Top Chef. I was still in New York. It was at the beginning of the year. I think it was around February. And I went to this cattle call, big casting, and they talked to me, never called me again. And then in May, after the show had ended and they were doing the fan favorite, I was the fan favorite. And I got a call from my manager saying they want to see you again for the Chew. They've already shot a pilot, but they want to change the cast because they're taking all my children off, and and they needed a cast of people that people already knew, so they would buy into the familiar faces.
Right.
And I went into this a chemistry test, basically. And there weren't that many people there. There were about 10 people there, but the 5 of us who were the original cast of the Chew, we were only together for 20 minutes. And 6 days later, they announced us as the cast.
Isn't that something?
It was crazy.
That crazy.
Was crazy. And I remember they were rushing through these contracts and everything. And I was like, what's happening? I was like, okay. And the funny thing is, I was trying to get this other show that would have been on the Travel Channel. And we were in talks for about 9 months. And my attorney kept saying, it's a bad deal. I was like, oh, but I just want to do it. I want to do it. He's like, no. And then it fell apart. And then this came up a year or two later.
What a blessing. And what a blessing. And Carla, I have to tell you, you make it look so easy when you're on air cooking and preparing and speaking. And I've watched you. Your hands are going, and you're adding your different spices, and you're talking to your audience, and sometimes even dancing. And how do you make it look so smooth?
It took a long time. The first 2 seasons of the Chew, I was so much a fish out of water. And we had these little IFBs, or these little microphones, these earbuds in our ear, and the executive producer would be talking to us. So one of the first shows, I was making this dish, and there was an egg to the dish. And in my ear, I just kept hearing egg. And I'm like, what? Egg. And so I started saying egg. He would say egg. I would say egg. He said egg. I said egg. Egg. Egg.
Great.
And Michael Simon was like, okay, he grabbed the egg and put it in the pan, and they teased me about that for years. But my thing is, can I get a word like get egg? Don't forget egg.
Yeah.
What about egg? Crack egg, egg pan.
Pan egg, pancake egg. Oh my
Exactly.
gosh.
Exactly. It was hard. I'm telling you all, it was so hard. I thought I was going to get fired. I refused to move out of my apartment, which was temporary housing.
Mm-hmm.
I had no furniture, and I didn't feel secure. I had this imposter syndrome. I was miserable. I tell you, for 2 years.
For 2 years.
For 2 years.
No
and
one
I
would have
loved
known
my
it.
job, because I loved it, and I
Mm-hmm.
loved being there with my co-host, and I was in this place of learning, but I didn't know what to do. I never had any media training. Eventually they sent me to a person who would help with media training. And she said to me, when you look at that camera, you're always talking to your next boss.
You're
And
always
that's
talking to your next boss.
your next boss.
Uh-huh.
And the media trainer just said, this is not about training you for this job. This is about helping you become who you are
Yes,
in
indeed.
this job.
Yes, indeed. Yes, truer words have never been spoken. I say that to my kids all the time. When you're afraid and you're nervous about something, and it's an experience. Where you are in the moment is an experience, especially in a job training position. You're training for the next position, for the next job, and you'll be better at the next thing that you do and more experienced.
That's exactly it, And so I was like, okay. And, I had some other challenges, but when I finally moved from that temporary apartment, it cost me $75 because I swear I had nothing. I knew I needed to leave out from New York in 60 seconds or less because I couldn't afford New York without a job. And, and I just got those 10,000 hours, and that's what it takes.
Unbelievable, Carla. And what a great job you have done. You're such an incredible role model to so many. And for those out there listening to your story, and that's not even half the story. You have accounting, you graduated from Howard University. I mean, your travels, you're a model, you're an actor. They don't know about your Broadway. A lot of people don't know.
You know what? Mm-hmm. The funny thing is, that's the thing, in addition to the cooking, that I really want to do. If I could reinvent myself, it would be two things. It would be acting, and I want to say like some kind of sitcom and theater. And it would be speaking to young girls, and really being that role model.
And you really are. You definitely are. I mean, your story of, I don't know how much time you have, Carla. I don't want to keep. Okay, good.
I'm good.
You're good. Okay. For the entrepreneurs out there, you started out, you went to school for accounting, right? Mm-hmm. Finances and accounting. And let's talk a little bit about that, because you weren't afraid to change. You were not afraid to pick up and move and do all of these different things.
No.
And tell us about that.
So I left. I really wanted to major in theater, and I didn't get into the one school that I wanted to get into. It was very competitive, and that was Boston University's conservatory. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I ended up going to Howard University. I liked my accounting teacher in high school, so I majored in accounting. And I graduated, worked for Pricewaterhouse, started taking the CPA exam, and I didn't pass it the first time, but I just decided this is not me. So I quit my job. And interestingly enough, and I don't tell people this, I continued to study for that exam, even though I knew I wasn't going to work in it, because I wanted to finish that.
Good for
and
you.
I wanted to give my mother that certificate. So it lives at her house. And, I went to Paris and I started modeling. I started modeling in Paris, but I had been introduced to modeling when I was at Howard. We had these big spring fashion shows and homecoming fashion show. And I continued to do that when I was in Tampa, Florida, because it was a way to meet people. And then I met these girls who were just moving to Paris, and I said, I'm going to do that because I hate my job, and I just really needed to have this bridge between what I knew I didn't want to do and what I eventually wanted to do. And I didn't know what that was. And so I was ready for an adventure. And the other thing was, I was afraid of failure. So people think, oh, you're so brave. No, I was afraid I really wasn't. And I was afraid to stay and fail at that job that didn't feel right, and it didn't feel like me. So I was I would rather run into the unknown than stay in what I knew I was afraid of. And that sounds crazy
and
when
that's
I
brave.
talk about it.
That's very brave, Carla, to do that. You're fearing failure, but you're running into a space, like you're saying, that the unknown. That is so brave to me to be able to do that, to pick up and move to a whole nother part of the world.
That's amazing. I really admire that. And I think if I had the choice to do that, I don't think my mom would let me. Even when I moved out of the house, she's like, okay, I'll see you in 5 minutes.
That's hilarious.
See you soon. Stay close. Mom, but I want to travel the world.
I'm a half hour away from my mother now, and it's killing her.
Yeah. So Carla, wait. So you go to? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. I was laughing at Brittany.
Brittany's a trip. And thank God, yeah, she's close. She's close by. Gianna's a little bit farther. She's north.
45 minutes.
45 minutes, and Eddie's an hour away.
Yeah.
Eddie's an hour away. That kills me too. But they're doing their thing. So, but what you did was very, very brave, picking up and going to Paris. And how did your mom feel about that?
I had one telephone number that was a friend of a friend of a friend. Mm-hmm. And then I had 10 words of French. And I think, surprisingly, she was like, okay, you can always come home.
That's right. And you know where home is. Mm-hmm. You know where home is. And it's a special thing when you have that bond. And
yes,
you have that bond with your mom, and it's really, really precious. And you talk about your mom cooking and how you never cooked. And this was, I was telling Brittany, she really needs to listen to what you talk about, because you didn't cook.
Brittany, right? I'm telling you. Brittany,
yeah.
I really didn't cook. The first, I made something for my Girl Scout badge at 12. So, but that was just because I'm competitive and I wanted that badge on my sash. I made a tomato soup with 3 or 4 cans of tomato paste. Okay. So I'm telling you, I was the worst cook. The worst. So, I just think that I just kept doing this thing that I just became good at it because I just kept doing it. Because I really didn't know what else to do. Mm-hmm. I was just sort of in this holding pattern, and I sold water filters. I, went and worked for free at the IRS. I mean, I did a lot of stuff in between and trying to figure this out.
I love it.
And, and when I started this, it was a fluke just by taking a friend lunch, and she introduced me as this person who had a business. And I said, yes. I'll be back tomorrow, and I went door to door, hair salons, doctor's offices, and all these different places. And then I just kept doing it because I just felt like, okay, this makes me feel like I'm doing something.
Do you love it? Did you love it? Did you love it when you were doing it?
I didn't necessarily love it. I think what I loved, my love language is words of affirmation. What I loved was people enjoying the food. Okay. And saying that they enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. So I just kept doing it until I loved it, until it was, I'd rather do this than anything else.
Yes. And that was my next question. What is I know you like acting and speaking and all that. What is the one thing, if there's one thing that you could do forever for the rest of your life, what would that be?
I absolutely could not answer that question.
You couldn't.
I think because I have this long list of things that I always wanted to do, I would need the flexibility to do other things. Yes. I think there are many things that dovetail and take you. I would not want to choose. I really couldn't. I couldn't choose.
And I don't think anybody should. I mean, there's so many dimensions to all of us, especially us women, that there's so many gifts that God gives us and so much that you can use and so many things. And we can, we just can. We can use our hearts and be free to do all of the things that we really want to do. And it's amazing that we can do that.
Exactly.
You have to remind yourself every day that you can. You can do anything you want. Anything you set your mind to, you can actually do.
And I think the thing that to also remember is there are no wasted talents. So when people are going to school and they think they're going to have this whole big plan and it doesn't work out and then they end up doing something else and it's just zigzag, they will get to a point where every single thing that they were picking up along the way, they're going to use.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I completely agree. And my mom, I don't know, Carla, if you know, my mother has so many hats. It's from being a dental hygienist or technician. She had her own cleaning business, inventing things. She had her own party planning company. Like, can you do this? Yeah, I can do that. Like,
Right.
like I admire so many women that can do X, Y, Z, and I'm walking in her footsteps. I've done so many crazy different things, and it's just so inspiring hearing it from my mom, hearing it from you, from not cooking to modeling to acting. It's inspiring in any age, especially women now. Especially women of color and mixed women like myself. It's good to hear, and it's good to be reminded that we can do whatever we want, and you can't stop us.
Right. And I think the other thing to remember, a lot of the things that we did and the way that we accumulated this big list is because we had to do them. We didn't have the luxury of saying, I don't do that.
Right.
Because it was either do it or not succeed. That's or not move on or not get money or not get paid or, you know what I mean? So you just say yes and then you figure it out. And that's why my 6-word novel, Say Yes, Adventure Follows, then Growth. I
love it. I love that, Carla. I love that. And you really are an inspiration to so many people out there listening. And that's why I'm so happy that you're with us today and you've come on the show. And there's so much more I want to ask you. I know time is fleeting. But Carla, it's been
I'll just have to come back.
Yeah, please do. It's been such an incredible pleasure having you on the Inventress podcast with Brittany Ascolese and John here in the background looking over. Listening to make sure things are going
so there's
right.
The only thing that is left to do, one day we will have biscuit time.
Oh, yes. And will you make biscuits, Carla?
Oh, yeah. I ask strangers to make biscuits with me.
Oh, let's do biscuits.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, let's definitely do biscuit time. We'll have a slate of time, make some biscuits. Sip some tea. Or
I'll make the drinks.
Yeah. Brittany will.
That's right, Brittany. You make the drinks.
Brittany will make the drinks. Carla, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for visiting with us tonight. And
You're welcome.
Can't wait to make these recipes. And you're the best, Carla.
Thank you.
You're the best. So everybody, please pick up a copy of Carla Hall's Soul Food. Listen, every day and celebration.
All right. Thanks, Carla.
Thank you all so much.
Carla.
Huge hugs.
Yes, hugs. Until next time, sweetheart.
Yeah, we'll play in biscuit time.
We will. We're there.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. Thank you again, Carla Hall, for coming on our show. You are, again, such an inspiration. For those of you listening out there, please go and purchase Carla Hall's Soul Food Everyday and Celebration Cookbook. She's amazing. The recipes are so easy to prepare. And you can definitely find this on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. But definitely check her out. It was such a pleasure. She was amazing. Wasn't she, Brittany?
She was so cool. Just amazing. She was so easy to talk to.
She's a beautiful woman.
Funny, just very down to earth.
She is. And she's all the things we talked about. She's an actress. She's an artist. She's everything. I love her glasses, too. That's her.
Yeah, she does have cool glasses.
Yeah, she really does. So listen, guys, if you want to email us about the show, have any questions at all, please feel free to email me at the Inventress Podcast at gmail.com. That's the Inventress Podcast at gmail.com. When it comes to contacting me from business, my day-to-day business is inventing A to Z. So my website is inventingatoz.com. You know, I also have conferences. Go to my website for the Association of Women Inventors and Entrepreneurs. That's AOE. That's AOWIE.com. And just feel free to reach out to me. I do consultations. I develop products from concept to fruition, and love to be able to help you guys out there with anything that you have.
Yes. And please also remember to rate and review, subscribe to the podcast, because it helps us reach new listeners and helps us continue to grow. So if you want to help us, don't forget, please, to rate and just review. And we want to reach out to everyone out there. So far, we've been having really good feedback. So thank you guys so much that have been listening and supporting us thus far. And you can listen to us on all the platforms where you listen to podcasts. And that's it. Thank you so much for everything.
That's a wrap up. Continue to be kind, everybody. It's a tough world out there, but we got to stick together and do great things for each other. So please remember to lift each other up 2 hands at a time. And sometimes you may have to use your foot. Until next time, guys. Peace.